Hi. So we're having a series of videos where students can come on and ask me any question, pick my brain. And today we have Michelle White, one of my former students, now graduate. And Michelle, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you and your background, how you're using hypnotherapy.
So hi, nice to see you again. I'm Michelle. I'm currently living in Munich, Germany, but I'm from North Carolina. I have been working previously or currently still my full-time job is an assistant at a law firm, but I'm also a hypnotherapist, thanks to Mary Lee. And I'm working on launching the business aspect of my career to do hypnotherapy full-time. And as well, I will do mindset coaching as well, in addition to the hypnotherapy. And I also have just recently launched a podcast, which is really exciting. And I'm using that as a platform to demonstrate who I am. And it's something I'm just passionate. The subject is something I'm passionate talking about anyways, on mindset topics and hypnotherapy eventually. So tying them all in together is the hope, so that eventually it'll be a full brand of Michelle in different
That's awesome.
arenas.
And I think I just want to point out that that is a really solid business plan to keep your day job until you can start to build your business. And as you're building, figuring out other ways like the podcast, the ways of marketing, just other streams of revenue, or, really honing in on that niche as
Mhm.
you're kind of feeling into it and building it so that you can then really launch as a full-time hypnotherapist. It's a
Mhm.
great business plan.
Mhm. Yes.
So you've always been really good about asking questions,
Yes.
and I loved it in class because I love it when students are really engaged and curious and asking further questions. And so you had some further questions, so I invited you here today. So bring it on. I have no idea what you're going to ask
Yeah.
me.
So first, which I always find is something that most people want to know about, is going to be basically with the business setup and like the initial stages. So where I'm at basically right now. And I have some ideas for answers already, but it's always good to get more input, and there's no saying which answers are the correct way, just more input is better.
Right.
So the first thing I wanted to just get your mind opened on would be different tips on getting your initial clients. So I've already gotten a few initial clients, mostly through word of mouth, which is also why I started the podcast, because I think word of mouth is going to be one of the biggest ways to get people to come to something like hypnotherapy. But just different aspects to get those first clients from not word of mouth or from not people that I already know.
Yeah.
So your
Well,
marketing outreach in the beginning.
right. Yeah. So as you're practicing, on people, hopefully they refer people also from
Mhm,
their circle, but you're asking, where do we go beyond that?
mhm,
Um, so how I did it was I did sessions out of a metaphysical bookstore for, to begin with. And I wrote a lot of articles, but that was back in the days when there was a lot more, well, there wasn't so much on the internet. So it was in newspapers, but posting blogs on other people's um, blogs, having posts, contributing maybe to some online chats. I would say don't go into those chat groups or like Facebook groups. I mean, you can go in there where there's hypnotherapists, but you're preaching to the choir.
mhm,
What you want to look for are other people, like going into um, uh, maybe groups where there's like divorces or stress management, or massage therapists, or some other kind of group where you would be standing out a little more, and giving them really good content, not just saying, hey, I'm a hypnotherapist, come to me, but saying, maybe doing an article or a post on stress, that sort
mhm,
of thing. So writing is always good. Um, what has really turned my business on in the last couple of years is, of course, having a good website. So I had my website renovated, um, and it's only been up about 9 months, the new website. I think it was this year, 2 years of COVID. It's hard to say, was it this year or last year? I think it was this
It was
year.
this year because I saw the difference. I saw the two
Oh,
websites.
okay, good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So having a well-written, well laid out website is key. I go to so many people's websites and I just look at it and I go, ugh, you know, I don't like the website. So then that's an impression that I have about the person who, is putting themselves out by that website. So having a really good website, well written, but I'll tell you what I think has been the key is having the proper keywords. And that is an art. So I did, I hired somebody to do the website and the keywords. Unbelievable in the last 6 months, the traffic I've gotten from Google. Okay. And we contribute it completely to keywords. But you also have to have the keywords in your posts that are appropriate as well. So, it's a little bit of an art, but Google does have some tools that you can use that they'll help you to find the keywords of what you're looking for, or of what you should be using for your niche in the business. Giving presentations. So local outreach, well, now it can be international outreach because you do everything over Zoom. And so reaching out to organizations where you could do a presentation, maybe for coaches or or for massage therapists or for metaphysical groups or, any related group, people with stress, I don't even know what all associations are out there now. Start a meetup group and have a Zoom meetup where you're doing presentations. So self-hosted, self-promoted events, have a newsletter, have, of course, there's the funnels, right? So have record an audio meditation and then offer it for free. And you can do that on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you want to go. And maybe all of those channels, LinkedIn, and offer it free, but have a box that comes up and says, give me your name and email address, right? And so then you're creating that mail list. And then with the mail list, also, giving good content at least once a month. I send out newsletters every week. And, if I'm promoting an event, then it's even more than that. But really solid content I do every other week. And then, marketing pieces in between that of either events. For me, it's the trainings, or maybe I'm giving away an audio, or maybe I'm, giving them tips on something. So having really good content. And what's fun about that is when you're creating the content, you're also educating yourself. You're really clarifying in your mind that subject and articulating it. And so then if you're doing any writing, you have to get an account with Grammarly. Okay, Grammerly, Grammarly.com. You can get a free account at the basic level. I write so much that I've gotten the pro account, but put everything in there, and it'll correct your grammar, your spelling, your punctuation, and you'll learn a lot about the English language that way. And they'll tell you, you use that word too many times, you got to switch it around or whatever. But of course, you're going to be putting your keywords in there, but make sure that it's intelligently written. So I have all of my assistants also using Grammarly now to really make sure that it sounds intelligent. Again, I read a lot of things from people and I just think, ew,
Yeah.
because it's just not articulated very well, or they don't know how to spell or whatever. So Does that help?
Yeah, no, that's really good. I thought it was really nice, especially that you mentioned the going into groups that are more for the niche and the people that would be receiving from the niche and not necessarily people that are like me. And I
Yeah.
remember when I had heard something similar before, they were also like, it's good to go into that group, but don't necessarily take from that group if that's someone else's group that they've already created. So you can be almost like a spy, but like don't go in there taking things. Just get the ideas and then go and
Yeah.
going to make your own.
Yeah. Or just provide content, because when
Yeah.
people see that you're giving helpful tips, they may reach out to you and say,
Yeah.
hey, that was
Who
really
is that?
cool.
Yeah.
Let's connect, or I want to hear more from you, or they may start following you.
Mhm.
And so that would be more ethical.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't want to get
It's
paid.
a way of getting like, hey, I know a few things, and they can go ask, who are you? And then you can show who you are.
Right.
And speaking on that, one question from that was like, how much would you suggest for a new person to outsource, or when should they start outsourcing certain aspects of the process? So you have assistants doing things, you write your newsletters. How much would you suggest in the beginning? So once you're much more developed, it makes sense. But in the beginning, how much would you outsource?
I would outsource anything that you're not an expert in. So I would, even if it's a short-term contract, so maybe outsource the keyword piece of it, or obviously the, building the website. Some of that I outsourced right from the beginning, because I don't know how to build a website. And of course, back in those days, it was really complex. Now you can go to Squarespace and put something up pretty easily.
Mhm.
But if you don't understand keywords, hire somebody that really knows what they're doing, not just somebody that says they know what they're doing, but really
Mhm.
check that out. Um, um, I didn't have an assistant probably the first 15 years, but I was doing a lot of work, and maybe I wasn't getting as much traction either that
Mhm.
I could have gotten. So, um, yeah, so outsourcing is really hard,
Mhm.
because there's a period of time where you're getting used to working with each other. And I've outsourced in the Philippines, India. I right now my assistants, one is in Mexico, one is in South Africa,
Mhm.
and the South African, of course, speaks really good English, but it's British English, so she'll
Yeah, so
put a
it's
Z
different.
where we could put an S or something.
Yeah.
So there's some differences that I have to kind of correct, or she'll have certain expressions that don't really reflect what we would say over here in the States.
Mhm.
And my girl in Mexico, they're both awesome and they're really good in their niche. But of course, English is a second language.
Mhm.
And, she has to run everything through not a translator, but like Grammarly. But I have to
Mhm.
check, in the beginning, she
You
was
would want to
posting.
check anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. In the beginning, she was posting for me, and I would say, oh my God,
Yeah.
I don't, that is not proper English, and I don't want that representing me.
Mhm.
As an author of 5 books, you can't be writing in something that's not correct English.
Yeah.
So now what we've done is she creates a Google document, and she puts all the posts for the month. And then I go in and I help her do the graphics, because I prefer my graphics over hers. I'll correct the way that she's expressing things. And then it works out well. So if you're too busy to do the outreach on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Google, I mean, there's a
Mhm.
lot of outlets. First of all, you might just pick the ones that might work the best for you, but um, outsource that. But again, check everything that they're doing and then let them post. So I've worked with my assistant for a year, and we've trained now so that we create that Google Doc, but we have a rhythm. And I said, you can just repeat this every month, just change out the content, but basically, the rhythm of how often and what we're going to post and everything. So we just meet every couple weeks or something. And excuse me, we decide, like right now, we just had a meeting and we decided what we would talk about for 3 months. Here's the rhythm of, here are when the trainings are, here's what we need to do. And she will just create all of that for me. I go through and examine it, but then she's spending the hours actually posting and making sure all of that's up and running.
Mhm.
And I don't want to have to do that too.
Mhm.
So I would say, the algorithm is that your virtual assistant should be producing 3 times their wage in
Mhm.
a return. So it's not too difficult if you're outsourcing in maybe one of the third world countries, but you
Mhm.
do have to watch them a little more carefully as to what they're doing,
Mhm.
for repetitive things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
just
right,
basic administrative things. Yeah,
right. Just really
saves you
think
time.
that, yeah, that they can be trained and they're doing it. Yeah, I'm so grateful that she's doing that.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah,
No,
does that?
no, that's good. It's just a different stages of when to outsource and when not to outsource. And I found like certain things, like one big reason I went to the podcast was also I'm much more I'm a much better speaker than I am writer. So eventually I'll have to outsource some of the writing because no matter how good at writing I wish I could be, it's just not the same. So knowing
Yeah,
my forte.
yeah. I've outsourced writing before, and it's good. It still isn't my voice completely, but you can go back in and just kind of
Make
personalize
it
it.
you. Yeah,
Yes, but at least they've got the bulk of
the
it.
basic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one. So I've been considering this, especially with like going into, I'm not planning necessarily to do a ton of life coaching where it's like 24/7 on call kind of thing, but
Mm.
what would you, or what are your thoughts on doing hypnotherapy plus the coaching as, um, 2 offerings? So offering, my plan is to offer hypnotherapy, coaching, and then the combination. Although the combination I find to be ideal, of course, not everyone's going to walk in saying that they want one or the other. So what are your thoughts on this?
Right. I think it's a perfect marriage. A lot of coaches are taking my training now because they're noticing that, wherever that client is stuck or whatever, maybe some habits or impulses are there, that they can get to them easily or easier with the hypnotherapy. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's a perfect marriage. So, what I would suggest is it needs to come from you, right? You need to create the offering that you know is most successful in working with the majority of the people in your niche.
Mhm.
So rather than saying, oh, I wonder if people are going to like this, really own it and say, this is my offering. And so
Mhm.
if you want to combine them, I mean, I sort of do that. Usually I go right into hypnotherapy and we do it there. But some people like the conversation first. So
Mhm.
out of an hour, hour and a quarter, maybe the first 20, 30 minutes is more of a conversation, coaching, and what about this? And
Mhm.
then, okay, close your eyes, let's go into trance. In the last 30 minutes, we're just kind of nailing whatever that critical point was.
Mhm.
But you should just create the programs you want. You might have a program of 5 sessions where we're going to do life coaching for 2 of the
Mhm.
sessions, and then we're going to go into hypnotherapy for the last 3, or however you imagine it to be the best. But
Mhm.
you have to own it. You have to know that this is how you work best,
Mhm.
and stick with that with a little bit of flexibility.
Mhm. And then going on that, I've also been considering, so I can guess I can tell you my niche, so it'll be a bit easier to understand. So I'm
Okay.
basically looking to work with people who are insecure and for them to gain confidence so they can stop comparing themselves to others.
Mm,
And one big thing when I've been like surveying by just going to meetups and chatting with people when I tell them my niche and I can see their reaction. One of the big things for the girls who are sometimes girls, but the people I've talked to, I've been looking at group sessions. So what are your thoughts on one, just group hypno? And then I've been considering, with how you're talking about the combination, if they do group hypno, then they can choose whether they do like a single session, like a one-on-one session, or if we do group sessions for main discussions, they get a hypno at the end where it's almost going to be like a meditation where we're doing
Mhm.
role model or something. And then we do separate one-on-ones. Wanted to see what your thoughts are on that and how
That's
group hypno
good.
would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I haven't done any group
Ah,
sessions of anything.
okay.
So
Yeah, so I'll tell you, doing group sessions is a great marketing tool.
mhm,
So whether it's for an organization or something that's already, maybe a metaphysical bookstore or
mhm,
some other kind of store or establishment where you come in as the guest speaker, or if you're self-hosting, so through Meetup or just through your own marketing efforts, um, it's great because you can charge less, which encourages more people to be there, $20, $30, something like that.
mhm,
And people are like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let me try that." And really outline the agenda, what they are going to get out of this. What are their takeaways going to be? Should be a real feature of the marketing piece. What is the
mhm,
takeaway? Um, but then, I mean, I used to host groups a lot way back, I would rent a space, back when we could socially intermingle.
yeah.
Um, and I would have 30 people in the room and I would always be surprised. It was like, where do these people come from?
Yeah.
And they would just hear about it and it wasn't very expensive. And, they would pay their amount. And then I might pick a topic like, okay, tonight we're going to talk about stress. And so I talk about it for 15, 20, 30 minutes and then put them into trance for maybe 45 minutes. And they can really, go in and have these wonderful experiences, bring them out, you could do, have everybody get in a pair, just talk to the person next to you, and you each have 2 minutes to explain what you experienced in the visualization, and
mhm,
then they come back as a group and ask questions and you kind of integrate it that way.
mhm,
Um, then people were calling me and they said, "Oh my God, that was so great. But now, here's what came up for me and I need to work on this." And
mhm,
so then they would be calling me personally for sessions. That was really a great way to market myself.
mhm,
Plus, well, when I was doing it in stores, like in stores or associations, people would see my name everywhere. You could even market to gyms, the YMCA, different. I did it here at the Washington Athletic Club. I gave talks, um, and they welcome events, and then you can, it's a way of marketing. But yeah, the
yeah.
group hypnosis. Now, are you asking how do you do the group hypnosis in a
Well,
group?
I wanted to get your feedback on basically what you said, but also how would you conduct group hypnosis?
Okay, so because of the group, you have to stay really generic. So
Mhm.
you would pick your topic. So if it's going to be about stress, for instance, I usually give mine on past life regression.
Yeah.
So that's one niche, right? But if you're doing, let's say, stress or self-esteem, right?
Mhm,
So in your head ahead of time, you want to have some facts or some things that you're going to share with them about how we lose our self-esteem, how these things get chipped away, and then how we build it again. So, a little bit of intellectual knowledge. Then you would take the whole group into a induction. And I go a little slower on the induction when it's a group.
mhm,
Some of my clients can go in really quickly and you can monitor that. But with a whole group, some people are going to struggle,
mhm,
perhaps. I actually give them about a 5-minute talk about how to go in to the
mhm,
trance. And in my case with the past lives, what that experience might be like, and it might feel like you're going to make it up, but just roll with it. So I give them a little bit of information so that they have that in mind to make the session better. But do it a little bit longer induction. And then, with self-esteem, I would say you could use role model, for instance. And, I wouldn't go into, go back in your childhood to, some
Yeah.
event that, deteriorated
Because then
your,
you have no idea where they are and you're like, oh yeah, so ignore that.
yeah, right,
Just
right, exactly.
throw that out. Yeah.
Go into something traumatic. So you don't want to
Yeah.
go there. You want to keep it on the the gentle and comfortable side. So, have them step into a role model. So, imagine that version of you that has really solid self-esteem, that loves yourself and is proud, or, confidence,
Mhm.
confident and all of that. And then have them step in and notice what that's like, step out,
Mhm.
notice the difference, right? And really sit in that, and then step back in. And you may do that, 2 or 3 times, and then have them step in and maybe look back at their former self. And, what would you suggest to your former self,
Mhm.
that you could do that would allow you to come into this new confident self with a high self-esteem? And they're going to get a lot of information, because we know that at some level in their subconscious mind, they do have the answers. So they're going to
Mhm.
say, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, whatever. Um, and then in this case, I would probably just leave the whole group in the new improved self.
Mhm.
Then do future pacing. How will
Mhm.
this be in a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever, and then bring them out.
Mhm.
So they're gentle experiences, things that, will inform them of a lot, but aren't too stressful, right? But
Yeah.
it depends on what you're going for, like
Mhm.
if it's self-esteem and confidence, that's a good one. Um, if it's decision, I've even done it with parts there, secondary gains parts therapy in a whole group. It's a little
Oh.
bit more tricky.
Yeah.
Um, but just having them contemplate on what is the benefit of having this issue. Like if it's smoking, maybe you're doing a
Yeah.
smoking seminar. What's the benefit of smoking? And you have to the hard part is just being quiet for 30 seconds or a
Yeah.
minute,
Because they're
letting
not
them
talking back.
right? They're not talking, but they're processing. You can't
Yeah.
go too fast, and let them process. And then, what is the downside? And you might, what is the benefit of smoking? And then you might wait 20, 30 seconds. And then you say, is there any other benefit to smoking? Just to kind of prompt them again. And then go to, is there, what are the detriments? So you do the questioning of secondary gains. And then I actually had them put the different parts, right?
Mhm.
So in that case with a group, I would say you can name which hand holds what
Mhm.
part. Usually that's up to the client, but I would say, in your right hand, put the part of you that wants to quit smoke, or the part that smokes, because usually they smoke with that right hand. And
Mhm.
then on the left hand, the part of you that wants to quit. And then I go back and forth, and again, leaving time for them to process, but also realizing that you don't know where they are in the process.
Yeah.
So I
How
go
many
back and
times back
forth.
and forth are you gonna go?
Yeah, I go about maybe 5, 6 times. And then, because we don't know if they've come to a conclusion, you can say, is there any level of agreement that they've come to, even if it's part way?
Mhm.
And then you just wait. And, you could use techniques like, if you need more time, raise your hand, but I usually don't ask them anything.
Yeah.
It's just, is there any level
I
of
want them to
agreement?
forget about the other people being there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So bringing the hands together. Yeah, and you don't want, if, people are raising their hands, then, you have to keep going.
Mhm.
And, other people are like, okay, come on, but
Yeah.
around 5 times back and forth or something. And then I say, okay, bring them together to the level of agreement that they have. So in this case, maybe they've agreed that instead of 20 cigarettes, it's 10 cigarettes. They're not going to, maybe not going to quit, but they've
Mhm.
come to an intermediary conclusion or agreement that they can agree on, and then integrate that. And then you could still use the role model, so,
Mhm.
so in advance, you would know where you're going to go with your meditation,
Yeah, yeah.
and keep that in, fun little bells and whistles.
Would you ever
Um,
use object imagery in that? Because I'm thinking about the confidence one, and I like the role model. But I was thinking if I were to do it multiple times and people got bored of that, what about doing object imagery to get rid of the insecurity or the questioning factor of whatever the topic may be? What would you consider there?
yeah, you could go in two different directions. One would be, um, you know, asking the group in advance if how many people felt that they had good self-esteem early on in their life. And
Mhm.
typically children do until they're crushed,
Mhm. Yeah.
and that may happen earlier. It happens in school or something like that. But if they can remember that, you could ask them to imagine what that would look, like imagine going back, and I would ask them in advance and then ask,
Mhm.
does anybody not ever, never had self-esteem? And so if there are people that never had it, then this particular method may not work. But
Mhm.
going back to when they had that, and remembering what that felt like, and asking them that if that was an object, that energy, that feeling, had a shape and a color, what would it look like? And then bringing that forward, or
Oh, so going
having
back to get the positive feeling and bringing it
and
instead
bringing it
of
forward.
creating the negative now. Because I was imagining you would have said, okay, go either to the time, depending on how traumatic it is, or
Yeah.
go to the last time you felt that, and then really energizing that feeling and then getting rid of that into something
Well,
new.
and that was my other thing. So
Oh,
you
sorry. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but you had it right. So yeah, you could either go back and get the good one and bring it forward, or you could say, now when you have that feeling, or maybe just remember the last time you felt a strong, strong issue with your self-esteem or lack of confidence, and notice how that feels in your body. If it had a
Mhm.
shape and color, what would it be? What would it be like if you diminished it or changed the color? And what
Mhm.
would happen if you just like threw it away, or
Mhm.
send it up to the sun and blow it up or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, but I always like following up with the role model.
Yeah. I mean, role model is always good. Yeah.
The other way to do it, and now that just, comes to mind, have them step into the role model and feel it. So now you have that sensation.
Mm.
Step out and feel the difference. Then you could, say, okay, so when you feel that difference, that negative, lack of self-esteem, then make the object that way.
Yeah.
And
Like
then,
when you now you can recognize, pinpoint the feeling. Now make the object, get rid of the object, or change the object,
right.
and then
And
see if it
then,
matches.
yes, exactly. And then step them back into the new version, the role model,
Mhm.
and then have them feel what that feels like, and then even enhance it. You could even then create an empowerment symbol that
Mhm.
matches that, and have them step away with an empowerment symbol that they can access anytime in the future. So,
If you
there's so
Yeah,
many,
I mean, it's so
so
many
many,
good ideas. Yeah.
yeah.
If you were doing, sorry, the first one you were saying where you were going back to when you had the self-esteem and you were, because I'm also thinking about this for even if you were doing a one-to-one session, it was a really
Mhm.
good idea. I never considered the flip. If you were going back to it, when you're saying for them to create the feeling of that confidence or that security, then they're just bringing it to present time, or what are they doing once they create it?
Yeah. Well, there's a tool that I don't think I've ever taught in the classes, where you can collapse that. So then you could say, okay, so you're 5 years old, you have good self-esteem. What does it feel like? Oh, it's this ball of energy. Okay, put that ball of energy in your left hand, and in your right hand, see yourself at this time in time and space, like you, and now bring your hands together only so
Ah,
quickly as the two of them combine.
to
And then
become this.
everybody's bringing their hands together, and then that's bringing it up into the present time.
Oh, that's
And
good.
then I would follow up with, okay, now that that's collapsed, imagine it there inside of you, that energy,
Hmm.
right? And,
Yeah.
and probably still the role model, future pacing,
Hmm.
something like that. But you could do this collapse.
Yeah, no, that's good because I would have only been like, oh yeah, just bring it within you, like in the same way you do with the secondary gains at the end, or the parts therapy, you're bringing it into
Integration.
yourself. Depending on how the person is, if they're into spiritual things, then you can bring it into your heart or whatever. But if
Right.
they're less into it, maybe I can just be like, you can feel it taking over your body or covering your body or whatever.
Right. Yeah. You could bring it together and then integrate it into you. Yeah.
Yeah, in whatever way they integrates the good word.
Yes.
Whatever way they choose to integrate it, they can do it. Oh, that's a good word. Words matter.
Yeah.
Are you good? Or yeah, okay. And so that was a really great answer. Thank you. And
Your audio has gotten a little more faint. I
oh,
don't know.
sorry. Can you hear
Oh,
me now?
that's much better.
Yeah, I just moved it.
Yeah.
Great answers. Loved that. That was really good and helpful for also one-to-one sessions because that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Um, as well, looking at reassuring. So I haven't had this issue that much, but when writing like my about me for my website, I've been considering this. How are you able to reassure new clients as a new therapist? So I can talk about the few clients that I've had and assure them like, okay, I know what I'm doing. This is my destiny to be this.
Right.
But when writing up, say, for instance, my bio or presenting myself, how would you suggest to overcome that? Okay, I can't say I have 10 years experience.
Right. So really rely on your strengths, and it might just be your personal challenges that you've come through. And,
Hmm.
I mean, it could come from anywhere. What I would do is go to a lot of different empowered women or
Hmm.
or men, but empowered people, and look at how they've done that. Because some
Hmm.
people really don't talk about their professional background. As far as I've been a hypnotherapist for 10 years,
Hmm.
they're really talking about, I came through this struggle. I realized hypnotherapy was so profound. I've been studying, or I studied it, and it's my purpose and passion to provide this same service to others.
Hmm.
People don't really go back and look at that,
Yeah.
maybe they don't register that so much. But then
Hmm.
when you're talking about client cases, you could see, you could say, and I've witnessed clients who this and this and that, because you've seen a lot of demonstrations that I've given in class. And so you could cite those as proof of the validity of the techniques or whatever
Hmm.
of this field. And you don't have to say that they were your clients or
Hmm.
someone else's clients. I've seen clients do this,
Hmm. Yeah.
seen where people have come into the office with these struggles and it was resolved in this way.
Yeah.
You're not saying who resolved it.
Hmm.
And it's not lying. It's true. I mean, you have seen those things,
Yeah.
and this is valid. So that,
Hmm.
I guess, helps. And
No, no,
then,
that's a good explanation.
yeah, and then joining some organizations, that gives you credentials. In the beginning, I joined several different hypnotherapy organizations, past life organizations. And again, if you can present to those, any organizations that have conferences and stuff, sign up to be a presenter, because that starts giving you credentials.
Hmm.
There's a trainer here near me that, came out of tech, took a training, and I'm not even sure she was ever a hypnotherapist. She opened her school.
A hypnotherapy school.
Yeah, and she never addresses the fact that she came out of a training, then went into a hypnotherapy or a trainer's training, and open
Mhm.
to school. And I'm not sure, you know, when I came through, we had to have at least 1,000 hours of client sessions before we could be trained as a trainer. And so
Mhm.
I had done that, you know, way back in the late 90s, 1999 or something.
Mhm.
Um, and so, you know, more power to them. You know, yeah, you can know it intellectually, but
Mhm.
again, you have to come through. But the point here is, um, she never addresses that. She doesn't say, "Oh,
Yeah.
I've been doing therapy since the dark ages." She
Yeah.
just says, "I have this training."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So
um,
focusing on
but
the parts that matter.
yeah, so you know, a lot of life coaches, I mean, yeah, I mean, look at some really powerful people who are in the industry and see how they're wording their
Mhm.
about section. Oh, the other
Mhm.
thing, yeah, I joined organizations. I was on the board of directors of two different organizations, twice on one and once on another one. You know, get involved with the industry, get involved
Mhm.
where you can, because you're gathering up those credentials.
Mhm.
Every place you speak, you know, I used
Mhm.
to teach at Bellevue College. I used to teach at Bastyr University. I, you know, worked, you know, here and there, whatever, and just gather up that background for yourself. You know, in the
Mhm.
beginning, you know, it's a lot of outreach. It really is.
Mhm. And one question, I don't know if you will know this particularly, it'll be a quick one. So I've considered in like my goal setting that I want to do retreats. How would you say to present yourself to that industry? And in what way? So I don't necessarily want to run an entire retreat on my own, but what kind of retreats would you say to look into? Many people say like the business masterminds are good places for limiting beliefs, but would you suggest to focus more on business retreats or more on soulful retreats? Or what are your thoughts on trying to be booked as a therapist at a retreat and presenting yourself to it?
Oh, I see. Okay, so not creating the retreat, but
Yeah, so I don't want to have my own personal retreat, but I would like to be able to apply and be the hypnotherapist at a retreat.
yeah, well, you could, you know, you're not limited if you
Hmm.
want to work with business people or spiritual people, whatever you're comfortable with and whatever would be relevant to that group.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I would say just find, I don't know. I mean, I have done something. Have I done something similar? I've always just organized my own retreats, but I
Hmm.
did have people come and present in the retreat setting. And in that case, in one in particular, I'm remembering I exchanged, they got to come to the retreat for free, but they
Hmm.
didn't get paid, but they got, you know, the
Okay.
benefit of the retreat. So,
Hmm.
you know, you really have to reach out to people that do retreats. I don't know if I'm giving you a very good answer, but
Oh no,
um,
but I mean, for that kind of question, it's also based on your experience. Like, because I was also going to ask, would you charge per client when you get to the retreat, or would you charge for the retreat? Or so, like for coaching, for sport coaching, you would get paid to go to the camp, and you would get paid on top of it. Not necessarily at the same rate you would do outside of the retreat, but you would still get some kind of payment so that you're not only getting a free trip.
right. So it depends on the organizer, what they
Hmm.
allow. You know, some
Yeah.
of them will say, yeah, you can come to the retreat for free and you can charge what you want. And that's your compensation for doing this amount of work.
Yeah.
You know, and others will say, no, you have to, you know, you can't charge anything beyond
Hmm.
that. So it just kind of depends. I actually presented on cruises a couple of times, two, three times. Yeah, three times I did cruises, and I got a free cruise in exchange for a 45-minute talk each day at sea. And
So just talking, not even doing a session.
45 minutes of just presenting and maybe having activities or putting everybody
Hmm.
in trance or something. But the
Yeah.
cruise line said, you cannot charge, you can't have private sessions.
Yeah.
You can't charge for that.
But you are
So
getting a vacation with it.
I had a transatlantic from Florida to Spain.
Wow.
I think it was a 14-day cruise with all these stops in,
Yeah.
the Canary Islands and Spain, and
Mhm.
gave 45-minute talks on 8 days.
Did
So,
you apply to those, or did
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And were those open applications? So if I were to try to go that route, would I be looking for places that are looking for therapists, or looking for places that I could offer my services and then presenting why? What
You
would
would
you say is
be
more common?
well, it depends on what the organization is. So in some cases,
Mhm.
you're offering workshops, and presentations, and others you might be, some retreats or maybe even some spa resorts may agree to have you come in and do therapy on the clients there. They may pay you a set fee, but then they can include hypnotherapy as maybe a day
Mhm.
that they get while they're in this retreat, or
Mhm.
they get it once, so if there's 50 people, then you would be working with one, each person would get one hypnotherapy session or something. It really just depends on the situation, the retreat, the spa, the cruise. um,
Mhm.
yeah. So, in at least for me, well, maybe somebody should start a business
I
where
know.
they just get all these resources and then put people in.
Distribute, be the directory.
Yeah, exactly. But they're separate places. So you would investigate and then offer, call them up and offer and say, hey, I could do this.
Mhm.
I did that for the Washington Athletic Club, where they would refer people to me. I gave a
Mhm.
presentation, and then there were referrals. Oh, they did a weight loss program, and part of the weight loss program was I gave a 2-hour session to each of the clients, but they
Oh,
would come
nice.
to my office.
Mhm.
So, it wasn't at the club. It was then, but that was just a part. They had already paid for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's cool. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a great answer, because I've just been curious about that and wondering. Because
yeah.
yeah.
It can be very fun. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm married now, and of course with COVID and stuff, it's a little more restrictive. But if you're single and you're willing to travel, or you have extra time, and it's a great reach out, and then that goes on your resume too.
Mhm.
It goes on those credentials that you have.
Yeah. And more word of mouth from every person you talk to.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome. Well, I don't
Okay.
want to take too much of your time, but thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Well,
This is
thank
really good, actually.
you. Okay, great. Well, it's been great to see you, and I love your questions. They're really wonderful.
Yes, thank you for your time and for having me.
Okay, see you soon, I hope.
Okay. Yeah. All
Okay.
right. Bye.
All right, bye-bye.